Hello and welcome to a Believing Heart podcast, a podcast about video games and the like. I'm your host, Mario8th. Find me across the internet at Mario8th. I'm on Twitter and Tumblr and ggApp.io if you want to see the games I'm playing and co-host. And if you'd like to listen to the audio version of this podcast, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can find the audio version on anchor.fm/Mario8th. Anyway, not that busy of a week, but I pulled quite a few things I'd like to talk about. I didn't play many games that I got to that I'll mention a little bit later, so let's hope that the news week is busy enough. First, I want to talk about Apex introduced their new trans character, and even though I don't play Apex, I'm always happy to see more trans representation, especially when it's done well. And I don't really have much to say about this. I pulled the article off of Polygon, where they are adding the new legend Catalyst to Apex Legends, who is a trans woman. And her backstory video involves her talking about how she came out recently, and I just love it when this sort of stuff is getting more out there. I really care about trans representation. I like good accounts of it. It seems like they did the proper work to pull experiences from trans employees and everything like that. It seems to be performed by a trans actor as well. I'm just happy. Shout out to Catalyst. Love to see some good trans rep. Shout out to Apex. Shout out to Respawn. Speaking of developers not supporting their actors very well, voice actors aren't paid anything, even after they defined the role. So, it came out a while ago that in Bayonetta 3, Helena Taylor was being replaced as the voice actor for the titular Bayonetta. Now, if you've ever played Bayonetta, I've only played a little bit of it, but I do appreciate the series for what it was. Helena Taylor, is Bayonetta. She defined that role. Her voice is iconic. And she came out recently and announced that the reason she is not playing Bayonetta in Bayonetta 3 is not because what they've said previously about scheduling conflicts or whatever. It's because they offered to pay her $4,000 for the entire game, which is just a pittance according to what she would have deserved to act in such a role. Now, she is being replaced by Jennifer Hales, who also seems to have come out and been she seems to be implying that she didn't know the reasoning why she was replacing Helena Taylor. Oh my gosh, I'll never get her name. Jennifer Hale doesn't seem to know why, or didn't seem to know why she was replacing Helena Taylor, but seems to be backing her a little bit at least. So I would say any hate that Jennifer Hale has been getting is not right. But it does really suck that Platinum would do that to Helena Taylor. I mean, she was really good in the role. From everything I've seen, from the bit of the game I played to all the clips, she does an excellent job as Bayonetta. And they wanted to pay her nothing. And the $4,000 mark was what she talked up to. Originally, the budget was lower for Helena Taylor to reprise her role. And she talked it up to $4,000, and then Platinum was like, nope, no more than that, and so she walked. And then the other day, she announced, hey, this is why, and I think you should boycott a Bayonetta 3 because of this. I'm not going to go so far as to say boycott the game. There are a lot of people who work on these games. Voice actors don't usually even get royalties for if the game does well, which is another tangential conversation, not completely unrelated, but it is another part of this conversation I'm not going to get into. But voice actors, and across both anime and video games and whatever, they need to get so much more respect for all of this. That being said, a lot of people also work on these video games, specifically Bayonetta 3. There's developers, artists, modelers, all the other voice actors in the game, all the other people who worked on it do still deserve to get paid. Then again, I guess they already did get paid. Most people don't get royalties in this business except for like the producers and then the people who put out the game. what the term I'm blanking on right now for great reasons. No great reasons. Anyway, this whole situation just really sucks, and honestly, as a whole, we as a society need to start paying our voice actors better. And also, we need to start paying voice actors in general, because Chris Pratt as Mario, it's just going to be a terrible job. Come on, hire voice actors, and then pay them too. Oh, okay. Quick update on this, actually. I was editing this episode and I saw some new information tweeted out by Bloomberg's Jason Schreier. First of all, the word I was looking for was producers. The word I was looking for was publishers. The publishers get residuals on video games, not most of the people who actually worked on the game. Anyway, reading the tweets from Jason Schreier, quoting him, Platinum offered Helena Taylor between $3,000 and $4,000 per session for at least 5 sessions, according to 2 people familiar with the deal and documentation viewed by Bloomberg. In response, the people said Taylor asked for a 6-figure fee and residuals. Negotiations fell apart, which does make the situation a little bit more complicated. I still largely stand by what I said. I do think voice actors should get residuals, and I do think voice actors should probably get paid a little bit more. But the story that Helena Taylor seemed to be saying, where she was offered a flat $4K, is being brought into question by Platinum Games. So the story is, I'm going to post the story in the show notes as usual, but it is a little bit more complicated than it was even just an hour ago when I started recording this. So, yeah, leave that in mind. Again, I still think we should pay our voice actors. It's still a terrible place in, like, the anime industry to be a voice actor, and still, I do think Helena I don't even know if 3 to 4K per session was enough, but it is more than what Helena was saying. And so, this story is a lot more complicated. Keep that in mind. All I will say at this point is, do not harass the other developers and voice actors on this game. They had nothing to do with it. Yeah, bullying, what's his name off of Twitter was really funny, but other than that, just lay off people. And pay voice actors. Okay, back to your previously recorded podcast episode. Goodbye. I love you. Anyway, the video game industry continues to be tumultuous. First up, it seems like Microsoft has just laid off hundreds of staff, including from Xbox. Now, I don't know too much. The story dropped not too long ago off of IGN. Also, they didn't write an article about it. Instead, I have to parse this silly video instead of just being able to read text in words. But they said there's hundreds of people have been laid off from Microsoft across various different organizations, including Xbox, and so my heart goes out. I hope whoever got laid off lands on their feet. Layoffs suck. I haven't been hit by layoffs before. I'm still very early on in my career in the tech industry, but that must suck. Hopefully they land on their feet. I don't know why Microsoft laid off. They said they're just always analyzing. Let me try to find the spot in the video. We continue to invest in our business and hire in key growth areas. And like all companies, we evaluate our business priorities on a regular basis and make structural adjustments accordingly. We will continue to invest in our business and hire in key growth areas in the year ahead. Which is a direct quote from a Microsoft spokesperson who spoke with IGN, presumably. And so, that sucks. But continuing on with the seemingly even worse tumultuousness of the games industry, much like Fanbyte and the G4 layoffs from a few weeks back, now G4 is just no more. So G4 is being shut down. In a memo with Dave Scott, who was chairman and CEO of Comcast, and a Deadline attained a memo from him, he announced that G4 wasn't making enough money and was being shut down as of October 16th when the memo was posted. Effective immediately are his words. And this is coming off of Fanbyte. This is coming off of a few layoffs from Motherboard, Vice. This is coming off of layoffs from a few weeks ago from G4, and I'm sure there's other layoffs I'm just not aware about. Oh my gosh, it's a bad time out there to work in video games. And G4 is just gone. And the worst part, I saw this information from Wario64's tweet. I don't know their gender, they tweeted G4 TV shuts down just a year after its relaunch. And then, a couple seconds later, I saw Gerard the Completionist Khalil, who worked for G4, saying, "Hey, this tweet is how I found out how I lost my job. How neat." And that is horrible. People shouldn't be learning they don't have a job through Twitter. There were a few others that mentioned, like one read it through an article because they were flying home from their grandfather's funeral. Emily Rose said that. Alex Mendez was still in active negotiations for a new contract before they found out. It's just, oh my goodness gracious. I think I saw Patrick Klepek on Waypoint saying that the games news industry seems to be at a contracting point, and that we might not be at the end of all these layoffs, and it's a really scary time for people like me who enjoy these types of things. I never watched G4, so I guess you could consider me part of the problem. But I am a real big fan of the Completionist, and I like that these jobs get to exist of the different places I like to view. And it seems like there's a big shakeup happening. Hopefully this is the end of it, but it's too early to tell. We're not going to, and at the rate things are going, we're not going to go know about the next layoffs until someone tweets it out, and then the people being laid off read the tweet from Wario64 and find out they just got laid off, which is just the crummiest thing to do. Again, my heart goes out to all of the G4 employees. I'm sure they were doing great work there. There's a lot of names I recognize. I never watched any of it, but I'm sure they didn't deserve to go out this way. Again, they only got a year. 1 calendar year. Sometimes these things need to take a little bit longer before they get profitable, but whatever, business is going to business, and I think businesses shouldn't be allowed to business anymore. Capitalism is destroying art, and then they treat their layoffs in the worst possible way. Alright, on to my last news stories. The metaverse sucks. Meta, or what was formerly known as Facebook, is not doing well. So first, I'd like to talk about the article from IGN. The metaverse has had a very bad week. So initially, just a few days ago, they announced their new VR headset, the Meta Quest Pro VR headset, which is going to cost $1,500. Oh my gosh! That they want only the highest end of people to be purchasing. Zuckerberg is saying that it's designed for the people who upgrade their PCs annually, which, first of all, why do you do that? Second of all, he's trying to market the Meta Quest Pro VR headset to those type of people to say, hey, maybe work in VR instead. Which doesn't seem to be going well, because there are a bunch of people who work on Meta for the Meta Quest, designing what's their stupid thing, Horizon Worlds, which is what they want their metaverse app to be. The people working on it don't even like using it. Apparently it's really glitchy, not many people like using it. They want people to join meetings, and they're like, nah, we'd rather just talk in person or talk on a Zoom chat. There was one instance that IGN was interviewing an employee where they were like, or someone was interviewing an employee, as the New York Times reported, it looks like, where people tried to use their stupid headsets to have a meeting, and it just wasn't working, so they had to hop on a different call anyway because their stupid service sucks. I'm personally really happy that it's doing bad. I hate Facebook, I hate Meta, and I especially hate the term metaverse. Fortnite's already doing it better anyway, VR chat is already doing it better anyway, and if this is the thing that tanks Meta, or what was formerly known as Facebook, then heck yeah. I'm so happy for it to crash. Another article I pulled from Kotaku, Facebook's legs video was a lie. Because back when Meta was first announced, one, it looks terrible, the art direction is just awful. It's not low poly in a fun way, it's low poly in a boring way. Like, you look at games like Umurangi Generation, that's low poly in a stylistically amazing way. You look at this tweet of Mark Zuckerberg's awful avatar standing in front of a bad Eiffel Tower. Now it just looks like the worst possible thing you can imagine. And one of the things they were getting griped on was the fact that avatars don't have legs and feet. And so they're like, hey, check out what we got working, a video with legs and feet, and you're able to jump around, and the headset is able to detect what your legs are doing. It's so cool. It turns out that was fake. They hired an animator to mocap and animate this in their, again, terrible, horrible art style. And because the people, and there were people who are working on this tech who saw the video and were like, we don't have this yet. And it's just ridiculous. Again, I hope Meta tanks. I hope Facebook is gone within the year because Mark Zuckerberg is wasting all of his company's money on this stupid program. One more point, I also pulled the Kotaku article. Facebook's metaverse is apparently filled with mostly empty, sad worlds. The Horizon Worlds thing that they've got, all the different areas you can hang out in, are mostly empty. All the other VR worlds, like VR chat, are much more populated than Meta's analogous Horizon Worlds, and it's just great. It's so wonderful that they are wasting all this money on this stupid vanity project. Anyway, that is it for news. Again, all the articles I talked about will be linked in the show notes, as well as all the socials you can find me on, or the audio version if you're listening on YouTube and would prefer audio, like myself. Anyway, let's move on to what I've been doing. I haven't been doing much. I only started playing one game. I started playing the first Psychonauts, and I'm enjoying it so far. It's definitely an old video game. 2005 is when I was playing a lot of these the big 3D platformers that were coming out. I kept playing Psychonauts, and it felt really, really familiar to playing SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom. Now, I haven't played SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom since 2005 or whatever. But I never played the remake that recently came out. I am going to play the new one, but I never played the remake. But I just feel like controlling Raz in Psychonauts feels so similar to controlling SpongeBob in Battle for Bikini Bottom. Which just means it's just how the video games were designed at the time. I still think Mario Sunshine is a much better game than Battle for Bikini Bottom, and right now better than Psychonauts. Again, I'm very early on. I've beaten a couple levels at this point. The levels are longer than I feel like I want them to be, and there seems to be quite a few of them, but I'll slowly be working through that over the next couple weeks. My goal is to beat Psychonauts and then just roll into the new God of War, so I'm not in a rush to beat it. I've got a few weeks still. And instead of playing games, I've been watching a lot of movies. I watched the movie Heat the other day. I've been listening to the Waypoint Plus Manhunting series, where they've been going through and listening to all of Michael Mann's work since he started with Thief. And I don't think I've seen a movie of his I've liked more than Thief at this point, but Heat was pretty good. And it again, it's not my favorite. It was fun seeing Robert De Niro and, what's his name? I'm blanking on his name. The guy who played Scarface? And in The Godfather? No, I can get this. Because I know Pacino. And it's not Al anymore, it's Dunk. Pacino. Al Pacino. It was fun seeing Al Pacino in the role. Oh, I've got to leave that in now. Because I found his name because what's my name? Dunkachino. It's a whole new game. Dunkachino. Oh my gosh, what am I doing? It's a good movie. There's one on the nose scene I really loved where Robert De Niro is the bad guy and he and his girlfriend, they just got the call. He's made it out. There's one more thing he could do, but he's not going to do it. He's just going to go to the airport. He's scot-free. He's going to get out. And he says it to his girl, and then they enter a tunnel that is just awash with lights, and they're both it's bright. It's so bright. It's almost blinding, and then it calms down, but you just see them in the glow that they did it. They finally made it out. But then Robert De Niro starts thinking about the one more thing he can do, and right at that time they exit the tunnel and they enter the night sky again, and seconds later he makes the decision, no, I've got to do this one last thing. And I really liked the visual dynamics of that scene, even though it was very on the nose. I found myself really being drawn to it. That being said, I also watched the Kinda Funny Spare Bedroom livestream, a real big solid chunk of it. I'm not much of a livestream person. If I'm going to watch a livestream, which I do a couple of times, not very often, I usually just pick up the VOD because I don't like to make time in my life to sit down and watch a livestream. But the new Kinda Funny studio, speaking of the video game industry being tumultuous, Kinda Funny is doing great for themselves. Their new studio looks great. Either way, I've been watching movies and listening to podcasts and watching Kinda Funny, so I haven't been playing as many video games recently, but I did also edit my Super Mario World Super Mario in Review episode, now out on youtube.com/Mario8. You can find every episode releasing every other Saturday at 5 p.m. and that's it for this episode. Again, all the links, including my socials and all the news articles I talked about in the show notes. If you'd like this podcast episode, leave a rating somewhere. Maybe on YouTube, maybe on iTunes, wherever you can. I don't know these things. Maybe leave a comment somewhere that allows you to leave comments if you'd like to do that. And hey, you can always subscribe to my YouTube if you want to watch my more reviews. I have 2 scripts planned out and outlined to go and release after I finish Mario in Review, which is going to finish in March. So I'm still trying to keep ahead of the curve a little bit. Either way, you can find those on my YouTube. Subscribe there if you'd like to, or subscribe to the podcast. Again, the audio version at anchor.fm/Mario8. That will be all for this week. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time.